Hello everyone and welcome back to the newest edition of Tom SOX Today. I'm Eric Fenstermaker, joined today by Jack Maney. We are here at the beautiful Crutchfield Park, getting to see hopefully the next generation of Tom SOX players here with the kids camp out in the field. Jack, how are you today?
I'm doing all right, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. Jack is one of our fantastic statistics interns and analytics guys this season. You'll see him behind home plate with the radar gun or up in the press box, manning point streak, being able to provide the best updated stats for the coaching staff for this Tom SOX roster. A roster that's seen a lot happen over the last couple of days. The Tom SOX now sit at 10-5. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak. Started out the season really hot. They're currently 6-4 over the last 10 games, which we'll talk about a bit over the next coming games. But before we talk about tonight's matchup against the Covington Lumberjacks, let's jump back to a couple of the matchups we saw recently. Sunday, the Tom SOX had a doubleheader against the Winchester Royals, in which they won the first game 4-3 in the 8th inning, and they lost the second game 7-0. Jack, before we get into some of the more details of this game, what were your overall takeaways from this doubleheader against Winchester?
It was a really great matchup to see, getting to see 2 games against a pretty good Winchester team. First game, hard fought, and went to extra innings, and Tom SOX ended up winning it. And then the second game, the Royals brought out a fantastic starter who actually threw a no-hitter against the Tom SOX. That was tough to see, but also a good pitching performance.
Yeah, one of the things the Tom SOX have been looking for over their last couple games is keeping their walks down. Jacob Haney had just 1 walk of this game. It was the only walk for the Tom SOX that day. So good to see the Tom SOX keep their balls, down low and be able to really stress hitting the strike zone early. Wyatt Langford had a walk-off 2-run RBI in the bottom of the 8th to give this game to the Tom SOX to put them ahead of Winchester, but ultimately on the day they split against Winchester because of the performance of Kenny Quijano in the second game. 96 pitches, 6 strikeouts. The only people who got on base for the Tom SOX, Ryan Dial hit by pitch, and Mackenzie Pate walked twice. Just honestly not a good game from the Tom SOX. Jack, early on, Dylan Janik struggled. That was pretty much the nail in the coffin right from the get-go. 2 innings pitched, 6 runs given up, and 5 walks. This game was pretty much over from the start, right?
Yeah, the walks really hurt him. Also, a couple of costly errors in the field gave the Royals a couple more runs than they should have got, but it was a tough outing.
And it was a difficult game because the Tom SOX did struggle from the get-go and they weren't able to respond. Normally this season we've seen a couple of performances where the bats have been hot late or they've been able to make adjustments late in the game. This was just not the case. The Tom SOX were not able to adjust. So they split on the day against Winchester. Not uncommon for doubleheaders. They did split against the River Bandits earlier this season. So we'll see what happens in their next upcoming doubleheaders, which we'll talk about. But moving into Monday's game against the Stanton Braves, the Tom SOX have been perfect against Stanton all season long. They come into this matchup and they fall 7-3. Wyatt Langford, again, a hot bat. The only 2 RBIs for the team. Garrett Spikes did have 2 hits, though. Does it worry you, Jack, a little bit that the Tom SOX have been struggling to hit the ball recently?
No, it's still early in the season. Still, lot of games we played. Depends on when the team gets hot come playoff time, but I'm not worried at the moment.
There were a couple of really talented guys for Stanton in that game. De Los Santos had 2 RBIs. Joey Haliga had 3 RBIs for this roster. Stanton's a team that's really dominated by 1 or 2 or 3 guys on a given night, and they showed that in this game. Ryan McCarty bounces back against his earlier, when he gave up the walk-off RBI against Candelaria. He bounces back and pitches well for the Braves. But one good thing to note, the Tom SOX did have more hits in this matchup. They'd been out-hit in a couple of their previous matchups, so good to see them get back to hitting the ball a little bit in that game, even if it only resulted in 3 runs. Now, yesterday, Tom SOX were supposed to travel to Covington to take on this same Lumberjacks team, but it got postponed due to bad weather. It'll be rescheduled for July 6th at 7 p.m. Jack, I'm curious as to what you think about not playing that game Tuesday, because as a positive, you get a chance to rest, kind of fix your mistakes, have a chance to take a breather because you've had a long stretch. But at the same time, now you kind of have to realize you're on a 2-game losing streak. Some of those mistakes can settle in, can affect your mental psyche a bit. What does having that day off mean for the Tom SOX ultimately?
I think it's going to benefit them. These guys are all come from high-level colleges. They play big games. So I think the rest is going to give them time to relax a little bit. They're right now they're out playing with the kids, showing the kids how to play baseball, get their mind off of losing, and then they'll be ready for this game.
The Tom SOX had an absolutely brutal stretch, 13 games in 11 days to start this off. We haven't seen that come to fruition because of some rainouts and some other cancellations, but still just an absolutely daunting stretch for the Tom Sox. Now, jumping into tonight's game, it is absolutely beautiful here at Crutchfield Park with a lot of sun, a little bit of heat, so we're not going to see any rain here push the Covington game away, but the Tom Sox honestly have a really good matchup here. Covington is 4-10 on the year. They've lost their last 5 games, and the Lumberjacks have had no success against the Tom Sox this season. Charlottesville is 3-0, the 4th game obviously postponed on Tuesday. This is really the best matchup you could have, right? Honestly, I mean,
yeah.
If you want to play a team that's losing and falling and you've had their success, this is the team you want to play, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Tom Sox knows coming in, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulder with the not really a losing streak, but mini losing streak hanging over their head. I think they're going to want to get a win today, push that out of their minds.
And it's a really good opportunity, like I mentioned, for the Tom Sox to get back to their success. Early on in the season, they started off pretty hot, but like I mentioned, 6-4 over their last 10 games. So should be a pretty good chance for them to make adjustments and have these winning ways come back and have these losing ways go away. The Covington Lumberjacks are currently the worst team in the South. Nathan Becker is averaging .375 with 15 hits and 8 RBIs. However, you can't count Covington out. They currently have 4 batters going over 300, including Victor Castillo and Nathan Becker, the number 3 and 4 batters in the VBL. 4 guys over 300, a team that's struggling. Even though this is a good opportunity for the Tom Sox, you can't count Covington out, right?
No, absolutely not. Every team in this league has good players that can really hit the ball, can throw the ball well. So you got to attack each game with the mindset that they're going to give you the best fight possible. Doesn't matter what the record is.
And Covington definitely needs a rebound game, definitely needs this more than the Tom Sox. They're going to be coming into Charlottesville looking with just absolute revenge on their minds. Like I mentioned, 3-0 on the season. They've fallen every single time. So look for the Tom Sox to really try to put away Covington again for the 4th time. Look for the Lumberjacks to try to make those adjustments and finally get a win on the season against Charlottesville. Now, coming up in some of the future games, you'll see a rematch against Stanton tomorrow night. And then you'll see a very interesting game Sunday. It's a doubleheader against Strasburg. Jack, Strasburg has been one of the best teams on the year, and I've asked this a couple of times with Front Royal and Winchester. What is your game plan and your mental set when you're going into a team like Strasburg? Because 1, they're really good, and 2, you only play them twice on the year, same day, doubleheader, half an hour in between. How do you prepare for a team like Strasburg, knowing you have to beat them and do well, but you don't have all the time in the world to make adjustments?
I think you just got to go out there the same mindset if you're going against like a Covington. It's got to be every team is going to give you their hardest fight. Some teams might have better players, but the Tom Sox know what type of players they have, and we have a really good team out here in Charlottesville, and I think they know that. So I don't think they're going to be scared by anyone.
Now, if you're tired of seeing Covington and you're tired of seeing Stanton, well, I have good news for you because you're going to see a lot more games against different opponents. 2 games against Harrisonburg to end the month of June. And as we get into July, 3 of the first 4 games for the Tom Sox are against the Waynesboro Generals. Good opportunity for them to make some adjustments and changes. As we know, we lost to Waynesboro the first time 7-2. So it'll be a good opportunity for the Tom Sox to get up against some other divisional opponents that we haven't seen as much this season, including the 4th of July game against Waynesboro. So lots of matchups against Harrisonburg and Waynesboro, but Jack, we've now seen a handful of games. We've seen 15 for the Tom Sox, and you're getting into the middle part of this 42-game season, and we've seen some chemistry, and we've seen some ups and downs. And what's been your biggest takeaway of the Tom Sox this season so far?
Well, I'll say this. I think the Tom Sox, whenever we're going against a really strong opponent, the Tom Sox come up and step up and play to that level. But also a lot of times we'll go against pitchers that may be throwing in the low 80s, and those are actually the pitchers that the Tom Sox have a harder time hitting against. And so I think it's about every game playing to the best of your potential and not going down to the level of your opponent.
Now, you're one of the guys behind behind home plate here. You got the radar gun and you got all the stats in front of you, and it's pretty obvious to see that the Tom Sox, like you mentioned, have multiple guys who can step up on any given night. Has there been any player that's kind of caught your eye as the season going on? Has there been anybody, or pitching or batting wise, that has really kind of stood out to you, or you've kind of wanted to watch and see how they progress as the season goes on?
Yeah, well, on the batting side, I thought Candelaria has been great to watch. He's really fun to watch at the plate. He's stepped up in big moments. He had that walk-off a walk-off a week ago. Really got the crowd into it. And on the pitching side, I think Jake Haney has been great to watch as well. He's a alum from my high school, and so I knew him in high school, and it's great to see him perform on this level.
So as we sit behind home plate and we're looking out at all the fans and what the environment's been like here at Crutchfield Park, it's hard not to notice the little kids running around chasing foul balls and the parents that are coming out an hour before the game to watch the kids play and to see what the next generation of baseball is going to look like. How has this environment been to you, and how have you noticed the fans have a huge impact here at Crutchfield Park?
Yeah, well, I think Charlottesville was a great town, a lot of great people that want to watch good baseball be played, and the Tom Sox are playing good baseball. It's fun. It's a great environment to be at. Everyone's engaged in the game. Sometimes people may get a little upset by some of the calls by the umpire, but the fans are into it, and it's a fun environment to be around.
And now the Charlottesville Tom Sox will look to get back to their winning ways tonight here at Crutchfield Park against the Covington Lumberjacks. First pitch will be at 7 p.m. tonight. The Tom Sox 3-0 on the season against Covington, looking to push at the 4-0. The Lumberjacks will be looking to extract revenge and just make that series a little bit more uneven and honestly beneficial in their favor. But Covington's been a team the Tom Sox have done well against all season long. The Tom Sox will look to continue that again tonight. Charlottesville looking good, but 10-5. A couple losses recently have kind of put the Tom Sox a little bit back from where they want to be. So look for Charlottesville to look to respond tonight. Jack, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we look out and we see the kids' camp just wrapping up and getting some couple last throws in and grass getting mowed. And it's honestly a great environment here, isn't it? I mean, it's a really beautiful day outside. The kids are coming out. And hopefully we'll see a couple of those youngsters out in the field for the Tom Sox in a couple of years and being the next Trevor Candelarias, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack, for coming on. For Jack Maney, David Argo, for Eric Fenstermaker, the entire media staff, thank you so much for listening and watching, and hope to see you at the ballpark tonight. Go Tom Sox.